I think it's difficult to pick one particular area because obviously anyone that understands construction knows that, what is happening in the back office of construction is completely different than what's happening out in the field. So if we focus on the field for a second, I think, documentation and clarifying of details and plans, right? When you're building a $3 billion headquarters for JP Morgan Chase in Manhattan, the amount of detail that goes into what the architect wants, what the engineer wants, and how those get documented today, which is in the form of drawings, blueprints, a BIM model, and specifications. So all the information is pretty much there, but the accessibility of that information sometimes can still be a challenge, right? Making sure that people are using the latest information and even being able to follow and understand it. Because sometimes a spec book can be 1,000 pages, and people's ability to consume that much information, especially when they're out on site making decisions, can be challenging. So I think some of the immediate changes and impacts for the site or the field is that you're going to have the information of exactly how the engineer, the architect, and by extension, the owner envisioned a detail, even the smallest detail, out on site in seconds, because you'll be able to type in a question, you'll be able to look at a detail in a drawing and be able to automatically link that detail to a drawing to the relevant details in the BIM model or the relevant details as it relates to the spec. So I think the availability of the information has always been there. Like, these things aren't new. They've been around for a long time. But the ability for people to consume it really quickly when they need to make those decisions will ultimately translate into schedule improvements and obviously some cost savings. Because any time that you have to stop work and you need to submit an RFI because we don't know some detail about the air handler that's going to be installed on this building, that's time on the schedule lost. That's obviously productivity loss because you have all these mechanical contractors sitting around waiting for that decision so they can execute the work. Ultimately, we hope that doesn't happen very much even today, but if it did, if that information is available in the drawings, the BIM model, in the spec book, that's going to have a huge impact because that person will be able to work on their phone, get that information, and hopefully be able to avoid unnecessary RFIs, right? Sometimes RFIs are required because the detail's not there in the spec and it needs to be clarified. That's probably not going to change right now, but a lot of times the information is there, but someone maybe just doesn't know where it is. And that leads to some of those unnecessary RFIs. So I would say in the field, that's probably the biggest change that I would see probably in the short term. And then obviously things will evolve from there. But Gord, I'd be interested in your perspective more on the back office, because it'd be the same question, but totally different set of circumstances.
No, and it is completely different. And I do see, I in the field, I'm actually projecting into the future that there will be a lot more will be automated and be AI driven than people think. Like right now, you're even saying like you can get that response from the spec book. Whereas with AI, and eventually any question that's being asked would just be asked of the database, and it would, or of the documents. Any document is available that can be, you can extract any information from it right away. But it will even be able to do the reasoning and apply that information ultimately, and maybe
find some conflicts potentially.
It'll find things, and one project manager will be able to manage more projects than they're currently able to manage. But in the back office, it's going to be a completely different game in the back office, because what people are doing right now, or what some of the people are doing right now, are clerical and administrative tasks that have to be performed regularly, that have very strict, rules about what you do in certain situations and how you enter it and where it goes and what the codes are. And all of that is going to become driven by agents. So people will be developing workflows, which will be easy to do because they'll use a natural language
another agent to
request to create a workflow. They'll be creating workflows that run automatically. They'll be creating transactions, like just examples, like to do accruals for invoices that haven't been posted yet. That's going to be an automatic thing right now, because it's depending on how your system is set up, but generally speaking, those are in the system and they're allocating where costs go. Everything, if it's done on a purchase order or a subcontract, those commitments are all known. The system already knows most of what people enter today. And with the upload of documents, invoices, electronic receipt of invoices and pay requests, and the whole lien waiver process, there are so many things that are going to become automated, and the system is just going to take care of for you. I was saying earlier, the tasks will change in the office. Mm-hmm. They will become much more high value mm-hmm. than they have been. Mm-hmm. Data entry it should be gone. There's nobody that should be paid to key in data mm-hmm. anymore at mm-hmm. all. And I mean, the system can read an invoice. It doesn't even have to be in a pre-specified format.
Yeah,
you can take documents. It will read them. It will get the data it needs from those documents and put it where it needs to go in the system automatically.
Yeah.
It will then even act on those. I know in the past, people have had to do adjusting entries at the end of the month. Mm-hmm. And you'd have to know pretty much what you need to do based on certain numbers. Go find the number, go post it. You can just have an agent do that for you.
Yeah.
There's no reason to do that. WIP adjustments where you under or overbilled, they're already going to be known. Those numbers, the accounts that you post them to, they're already going to be known. That is all going to be agent driven. So there's going to be a huge transition of what is actually being done in the office.
And accounting is a good example of, like, there's a lot of rules in accounting, and that's really the best uses is for AI, because if you can clearly articulate what the rules are, it can execute based on those rules, right? And that's why even in the software engineering world, right, there's rules about how the code has to be structured and the syntax that's used, and it follows those rules, right? Obviously, there's still room for some creativity, of course, but in general, we typically don't want accountants to be too creative. We want to make sure that they're following the rules. And I think that if you can build agents to do that, yeah, for sure, that's going to be a huge improvement. I think there's maybe another opportunity in the field as well. I'll just maybe speak to another example. In the field, there is a tremendous amount of effort that goes into progress reporting, capturing things that happen on the job site, whether it be in a daily journal, whether it be a deficiency in the form of a punch list item or an issue, whether it be some kind of a safety observation. There's so many things that are happening on the job site, and you see products out there that are leveraging cameras on people's vests or their helmets, and they're using the imagery from those cameras to pick things out, right? Whether it be a safety violation or just general % complete in progress, right? I think that there's a big role for even, products like CMiC to play there as well, where we're not necessarily in the hardware business of capturing that data, but we are in the business of measuring productivity and measuring units that are put in place and measuring that against the labor on the input side. So I think there's a huge opportunity in the field that spends a lot of time and effort tracking the production of those projects, being able to take advantage of the cameras, whether it be a drone, whether it be a camera on someone's vest, like I mentioned, and translate that into output units that ultimately become something that we forecast against. It'd be a big task. There's a lot of variables there, but I think the data capture in the field and the recording of events that happened, it's not going to go away, but I think the mechanisms of having to way back, write down all these things on paper, more modernly do it on your phone, whether I'm going to dictate it or it's just going to assume all these things from my video that I've captured all day, every day, or the drones that have been circling around the job site. I think that's going to be a big impact as well for the field, because it's seen right now as a bit of a burden. It's something that the head office makes us do this, right? It's not translating into building the building faster, but it's something that is necessary as a control to make sure that, we're not, having cost overruns. We're not going to fall behind on schedule. So it's a necessary thing to do. Everyone knows that, but it's not helping people build faster. So if we can do that more effectively, whether it's just with cameras or voice or a combination of the both, I think that'll have a big impact on, again, schedule and ultimately reducing costs.
Yeah, and there's going to be, as you were mentioning, with the cameras and the drones and mm-hmm. and the technology that's being used on job sites, there's no one single vendor that's going to provide everything that's going to be used on the job site. And the newest AI integration models are actually very, very powerful, mm-hmm. and it's going to be easier to connect multiple systems together.
Yeah.
I mean, I did mention earlier that you do have to have a solid data foundation, and mm-hmm. a single source of truth is important. And ultimately, you want to make sure that you don't have, disparate systems that are managing the same things. However, with effective integrations with multiple products coming together, being used on very highly specialized aspects of the construction cycle, you're going to be able to bring that information together and create the data foundation you need from those things much easier.
Yeah.
You're not relying on people anymore to try to synchronize those systems.
Yeah.
There are protocols being put in place that allows for different AI models to speak and different agents from different suppliers to utilize elements of each other's data and play off each other. And I think that's all going to be really important over time.
That's kind of the position that we're taking, though, right? In terms of where we fit into the ecosystem as a construction ERP, is that, you know, our customers and hopefully prospective customers are going to need a platform to connect all of those different things together, right? And had to have a place where this stuff is going to be structured. There's many things that we're not going to do out in the field that a drone company will do an amazing job with. We're not going to be getting into those spaces, but having a place to put the data, right? Have a place to put it in there, and then have that system, that database. Again, we talked about this at the beginning, that single source of truth that I can put my model on top of, right? And put my agent experience on top of. So I think it's something we hope, but by investing, in the APIs that we offer and, positioning ourselves more and more as a platform that you want to integrate into, I'm hoping that that's something that kind of translates back into the ERPs of the world that ultimately are the people that need to consume that data. So hopefully that's how it ends up translating.
And AI will be used in all of those different software systems. There isn't a software vendor out there today that isn't looking at using AI for something, or at least a software vendor that's
whether they like it or not, they have to do something
that is going to survive long. So everybody is going to have AI, and we mentioned this earlier. You're going to be using AI in products that you don't even realize is AI, but having a solid foundation. What we're focusing on in the back office with the ability to, first of all, drive efficiency through agents and automation and increase access to data, whether it be with a dashboard or ask the database a question or create a report on the fly or deliver information, exactly when somebody needs it, or just ensuring compliance. Making sure that documents are 100% compliant in every situation without a person
or allowed
having
to be in that system, right? If you're dealing with government stuff like that.
If you want it to look for CUI to make sure it's not being put into a system inappropriately, that would be something that AI could do, and also mitigate risk, control risks. There are so many applications where people in the past had taken unnecessary risks because it would have been too time consuming to check everything.
To do the analysis.
Do the analysis. And with AI, there's no more excuses. You're going to have all of those benefits applied across the board, and it's gonna make for better run construction companies overall. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And we work with customers all the time that say one of the reasons that they want to implement a system is they want to have better visibility, right? So, putting AI aside, that generally all comes back to we want to have that visibility. And ultimately, when you have the visibility, you might struggle with the volume of information you're dealing with. And that's really where the agents, I think, come into play. But there's so many different places that you can look at where AI will be changing construction. But I think in the short term, I think we hit on the big pieces, right? You're going to see whether it's data capture out in the field, decisions made in the field, and then the office trying to do more with the staff we have, right? And then being able to, effectively manage twice the amount of jobs that we were managing before. And then hopefully, whether it's a CFO or a COO or even the CEO, make better decisions with the data, right? And that all kind of comes into those different topics that we mentioned.